Welcome to the Gamers Inn. Come on in, pull up a chair next to the fire. It looks like you've had a long journey. I'm your host Jocelyn, and joining me as always is my co-host Ryan. Hello, Ryan.
Hey, how's it going?
Not too bad. How are things with you?
I'm sleepies.
Why are you sleepy?
I don't know. It's just short work week, and just like Friday just comes out of nowhere and just it's a good thing though, I guess. Got a
Nice.
whole nice couple days of gaming ahead of me. It's gonna be great.
I keep forgetting that it's actually Friday because, I worked for 3 days and now I've been off for 2 days and it totally messes with my entire week. So, anyways, those of you who are currently watching the stream may have noticed that we have a special guest this week. We have Mr. Todd Eaton, also known on Twitter as Bootify, or as we love to call him, War Crusher.
Mm.
Hello. Glad to be on the show. Hopefully I won't sully your program.
Oh no, you're gonna be
That's
great.
usually my job.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
You can't be worse than Ryan.
Or churchsters, really think about it.
That's true. Oh yeah, that show was so sullied.
Yeah.
So the reason that we have Todd joining us this week is because he was at PAX and we are so excited to talk what Todd's been playing because Ryan and I, we've been playing a little bit, but nothing compared to what Todd has been playing. So, Todd, what have you been playing?
At PAX, there is so much to play, and there's a lot of lines to wait in, of course.
Of course.
Most of the games, you typically would be an hour plus line. Some of them were 2 to 3 hours wait for just to get 15 to 20 minutes of gameplay. Some were a lot better manned than others. So, for example, I got to play a lot of WildStar, the MMO
Nice.
from Carbine Studios. That I know Joel's all excited about that. I am too. I got to play that a couple times. I had to wait like 15 minutes the first time, and then I walked right up to a console the next day, and because they also had them not only at the Carbine at their presentation, but they also had separate systems set up at the big Logitech booth that was selling headsets and keyboards and stuff like that. So
Right.
you had a second place to go to actually play some of that. So that was, and they also had some panels there for WildStar. So I did a lot of WildStar related stuff. They had a big party too. Got to talk to some devs at an after party. Free drinks.
Joel's-
Developers are great.
Yeah, Joel is actually in the chat room right now threatening to hurt you because he's so jealous.
Ah.
So, WildStar is one thing that I know I'm really interested in. I think Ryan's really interested in, and I'm sure that our viewers/listeners are also very interested in. So, if you don't mind, I just want to talk a little bit about it right now because I know you are probably one of the biggest WoW people that I know. Have been into it for years, did the PvE and the PvP thing extensively. So, you know MMOs. So, were you impressed with WildStar? Did it fall short in some ways? Like, how much did you actually get to sit down and play?
They had basically on all those systems they had about a 25-minute demo. So basically you play until the timer runs out, and you have your choice when you go to play of like what classes of the 4 classes, and you pick your races and all that too. And you can choose to start at level 1, and they've got a series of beginner quests that you start at, or you can start at level 25. And you'll have a good majority of your abilities because you gain them gradually, kind of like WoW. They pretty much automatically show up in your toolbar.
Mm-hmm.
The abilities are going to be kind of like I don't know if you've ever played Guild Wars 2 or the original Guild Wars, but you basically have 8 abilities that you can pick from, or 8 slots, and there's multiple different abilities that you can assign to those slots. So you're basically picking the abilities that you want, and you can basically swap out sets for those abilities. Like, so between combat you can say, oh, this is a tougher boss and I need to have more of this, I'm a warrior, I need to have this cleave ability
Right.
versus or more of a taunt or something versus a DPS set. So you kind of have to plan ahead a little bit, pick out what abilities. Initially you don't have a lot to pick from, so I tried both at level 1 and got up to like level 3 in about 25 minutes of just doing some
Jeez.
quests. And
Hmm.
Yeah, it moves pretty fast. It's like most games tend to move you through the content early on,
Hmm.
pretty quickly. And the drawback to that is I didn't feel like I really understood a lot of the story because I didn't have a long opening cinematic, and there
Right.
was a shorter cinematic there. And it's basically just a cut down demo, so you're not seeing a lot of the systems in the game. You don't see the crafting, which
Hmm.
obviously would take a lot longer. They
Right.
talked a lot. In fact, while I was playing, they had stuff on the screen, and they were the developers were, and I think it might have been the creative director, were talking about um, other facets of the game. In particular, they spent a lot of time talking about the housing system that the game's going to
Yeah,
have,
they
and they had,
seem to be all about housing and creating. Because one of the, I think it's the settler path, I think, lets you basically build settlements wherever you want. And you can build like vendors and inns and all that kind of stuff that you would normally have in a town, but you can make it wherever you want. And they've really been pushing the whole settler housing thing, saying
yeah,
that that is one of the things that really sets them apart from a more traditional MMO like WoW. Although I will say WildStar looks traditional in almost every sense of the word,
yeah. And
which
as
isn't
far
a
as the
bad thing.
game, the gameplay itself was pretty typical, and it's hard for just 20 minutes, even with I tried a couple different classes. Like I said, I put one at higher level and actually flagged him for PvP
Hmm.
and was just trying to chase people down and got killed a few times.
Such a
Because
bully.
yeah, yeah, you're playing with other people at the con,
Hmm.
so that was actually a really good time, and they actually had a separate housing demo, which was like PAX has so many things going on. So just for those that don't know, this is like a huge, primarily video game centered gaming convention, and it's held in Seattle every year. It kind of coincides with at the same time as Dragon Con, so you have to kind of make a choice if you're into both realms of more the sci-fi fantasy or more video games, which one you want to go to if you can afford it. So
Hmm.
I happen to, I really was more interested in just being able to demo a lot more of the games that were coming out, and all that other stuff is cool. But so we'll have to see how it goes next year. I don't
Hmm.
know if I'm going to go to the PAX East, which is held in the spring, which would be a little closer, a lot less travel. But we'll see. I mean, this depends on what's going to happen there. I'm not
Hmm.
sure yet. But basically, I mean, there's 75,000 people plus that show up there over a 4-day period, and it's in fact, I like took a shuttle from the airport over to the hotel, and I ran into a guy who not only was from Ohio, where I live, but he also lived in Columbus, where I live too. And just coincidentally ran into each other and started talking games, and we're gonna talk about getting together like to throw some LAN parties and things like that. So it's just you know I thought, oh, that's cool. You never know who you're going to meet. And I met so many different people. I basically went there by myself, so I had to befriend everybody in line that I could find. So just to try to see what people were into, get feedback on, okay, have you guys been to this? How was that? Did you try? You tried the Oculus Rift? How'd that go? Lots. Just finding out any good indie games I should check out, or you hit the Nintendo area. They had a huge, several floors dedicated to just Nintendo games
Ooh.
with demos. So, um,
They
and
need
Because
to
that's
put
all
that
they've
money into
built.
games.
oh yeah, and I took my 3DS. I forgot it the first 3 days, and the last day I brought it, and I got like 100, I think 140 spot passes or street passes in like maybe 3 hours. So that
How
was
did
kind
you
of silly. I'm like, what's
did
that?
you like whenever you got those 10 street passes, you're like, okay, I need to stop doing the PAX Prime and flip over
Yeah,
my
I
3DS and
took.
spend like a
Well,
half hour collecting puzzle pieces and stuff.
it was so easy, just like because there were just people laying around in beanbags and just walking through the Nintendo area in particular. So it was just
Oh.
I'd take a break, or I'd near there was a cafeteria area where they had like rock bands set up, and you can get 4 people up there and play. I saw a guy with a unicorn head playing drums that was pretty kick ass, and lots of other weird stuff going on, but lots of people just passing through. So like within 5 minutes, you could have 10 people pop by, and you just you know go do your stuff and your puzzle stuff and all that
Right.
silliness. So
That,
yeah, so basically back to Wildstar anyway. That one was, yeah, I know I got off on a tangent, but there was
That's
so
okay.
much to do
I
there.
feel like this is going to be a tangent-filled show, and that's totally
I
fine.
mean, yeah, I mean, PAX is, I mean, like I said, it's mostly video games, but there were tons of board game companies there. Um, some of us have heard of Cards Against Humanity. They have a huge presence there. They had their own panel. Um, on the I think it was Sunday night, and they actually had a tribute to Ryan Davis, the editor. He was the
Right.
co-founder of Giant Bomb
Right.
that
Hmm.
died earlier this year, and so they had I mean, it was like move you to tears kind of stuff. And I think I was talking to one of the guys at that was on that panel. He said they had about, I think, 50,000 people watching the live stream of
Jeez,
that, which is
that's
pretty
crazy.
wild,
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a board game, card game presence, a lot of RPGs. I mean, anything you wanted to do there that was gaming related, whether it's video or analog games, you could
Mm-hmm.
find some. Lots of people playing Magic. In fact, the swag bags had Magic decks in them.
Oh, cool.
But I'm like, I can do a lot of that with friends, and there's a lot of games I'm not going to get to play for a while until the release. So I
Mm-hmm.
tried to focus on just waiting through these long lines to play to get these as much game time play as I could
Mm-hmm.
in these games. So
Right.
WildStar was one that I probably got to play the most. I think I played it 3 separate times with different classes. Um,
So,
Again, the housing system's wild in that. It's really you're gonna be really. I think that's gonna be really cool. And at one time I played nearly every MMO that came out, and I've since scaled back. But I'm actually excited about this one again. So,
oh, that's good.
I've
So they did
yeah.
announce that they have a subscription-based model that they're going to be implementing. Although you can basically buy game time and sell it on the auction house. So in theory, you will be able to earn in-game gold and use it to buy game time through the auction house. And it kind of gets rid of the whole buying gold black market, I guess you could call it. So is it going to be worth the $15 a month? Is it something you will pick up instead of WoW? Will you keep both of them? Like, how do you view the whole, now that you've had hands on with WildStar, the idea of actually paying for it? Is it worth it? Do you think they should have gone free to play?
I've got mixed feelings about most free-to-play models because you get nickeled and dimed in most cases, and end up
Mm-hmm.
paying a lot more than you ever would for a subscription if you want all the same benefits. And I think that was the case with Star Wars: The Old Republic when it went free to play. I was like on the inaugural, like in the beta for Lord of the Rings when it was subscription, so I have a lifetime subscription to that.
Nice.
And seeing all the content that they put in there and all the things that they put in that you basically have to pay for is it would it's just I know that, and it's the same way for iOS games and or Facebook games and all that. For example, the Plants vs Zombie game is just the original game you could find for under $10 or $3 later on, and you got everything in the game. Whereas you could spend $200 on the Plants vs Zombie 2 to get all the stuff that you got basically in the first game.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's unless you really want to, well, I really don't need that, and I'll just try to unlock these keys. And
Mm-hmm.
I got a little frustrated with that because, and I know I heard you guys talk about it, and I kind of felt the same way. And with MMOs in particular, I kind of feel that, I prefer a regular pricing model, and I'll give you my money for the game and for the first month, and I usually try to give at least a second month into them because a lot of times there's bugs that have to be worked out.
Mm-hmm.
So
Are
I think it's a
you
good idea personally that they're going to be subscription based. I hope they do well with it. It looks like they've got a lot going on, and it'll be a good game.
Mm-hmm.
are you interested in paying for two MMOs at once, or do you usually jump in and out, kind of like, okay, I'm gonna put WoW aside for 1 month and try WildStar or try Elder Scrolls or whatever? Is that sort of what you do?
Yeah, well, uh, I've not, like, for example, with WoW, lots of MMOs have come and gone since 2004 when I started playing World of
Mhm.
Warcraft, and I've never let my subscription lapse on that in the whole time. Even in times when I was only playing it, I don't think I ever played it less than like twice a month. So,
Right.
like when Star Wars: The Old Republic came out, I was paying for that, and I paid for that for nearly a year, which was about 9 months longer than most of my friends stayed in it. Um,
Right.
and then when it went free to play, I thought, okay, well, this is, it's not exact. This is, well, we'll see. And I even tried it, renewed it after they went free to play, and then brought it back down to the non-subscription model because I just wasn't playing it. So that's the benefit of the free to play ones because you can generally go back. You don't
In and out
have,
without any kind of commitment.
yeah.
Hmm.
But I can generally, for me, it's not so much the money thing as it's a time thing. How much
Hmm.
time can
Right.
you actually put in to an MMO every month, along with any other games that are coming out? And the
Right.
fall is always a huge time for game releases. So it's, you just have to pick and choose what you want to
Right.
play.
And I mean, that's the dilemma that I've had recently and in the past multiple times when it comes to WoW is that I see all the great games coming out and I have to play them, and then I look at WoW and it's kind of like, well, no matter how you shake it, WoW is an older game. It still feels like the game I played, 6 years ago when I was obsessed with it.
Yeah.
So like, and I'm seriously like, like I played it like the year I graduated high school, through college, and through university. So through three levels of education, and it's just I'm surprised I graduated, to be honest. But
Me too.
yeah, so like when I see these new MMOs coming out, I'm kind of against you in the sense that I see it's like, oh, it's subscription. I don't know, but then I think about what you say, and I think about the iOS titles that I play that are free to play. I don't ever pay for the free to play. I usually quit when it just gets too annoying.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
Me
and
too.
and I, it's just I feel as though I would. And we've had this conversation before when it comes to free to play. I feel when I see that, give us $2.99 for this pea shooter, and I'm just like, I don't want to spend $2.99 on a binary database unlock, where it's like instead of a zero, there's a one now, and I can
Hmm.
access the pea shooter. I don't want to do that. It's just it feels cheap.
Hmm.
So when it comes to MMOs, like Guild Wars 2 is a good example. Like, give us $5 and you'll get all these purple things, so you can buy this hat with a feather in it. It's like, well,
Yeah.
I don't, and kudos to the people who do. I think that's great, but it's not about me not wanting to support the developer. It's about me not seeing any value in what
What they
you know,
want
they're
money
at.
for.
Yeah, exactly.
You'd
So
rather pay a bigger price tag for the main game.
yeah, or just play for free. I mean, that's the way they've set it up. They set it up so
Yeah.
the people who want that purple hat with a feather in it, that all sounds an awful lot like a pimp, but if they want that, then they can have that, and then that $5 towards that hat offsets me not paying any money.
Hmm.
Um, but I was thinking about this, and it's like I kind of am excited for WildStar, and if it is worth the $15 a month, and it does come out in the spring when you're looking at, the drought for the Xbox One
Hmm.
and PS4, and the continued drought of the Wii U, I think it's great, that we're going to have another subscription title
Hmm.
come out, and I mean, really, we haven't, Jocelyn and I haven't played it, so from what you're saying, Todd, it sounds like it's going to be worth the subscription.
Well, and the
Is that
thing that
right?
we have to remember as well is that, and I think this applies probably, Ryan, to you more than anybody else, is that any game that you buy is going to have the $50 to $60 price tag, the regular new game price. And then you get 30 days to play for free to try it out. And so, what I was going to say in terms of how this applies to you, Ryan, is that generally you either buy a game, play it for a couple hours, and then put it aside, or it's all you play for a few days. You pretty much play all the way through the content. Like, you put a lot of time into your titles, and then you don't touch them again. Like, um, maybe I'm trying to think, Bioshock Infinite might be a good example, and that was a good example for both of us. I mean, we
Hmm.
bought it and played through it within 30 days easily. So
Hmm.
I'm not that I'm saying that MMOs are the same and that you can play them from start to finish, but you can definitely put enough time in when you're excited about a title to figure out if it's worth the money in that 30 days. And then when that 30 days happens, you can decide whether you want to keep doing it month after month after month or not. So
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
could get your money's worth out of it just in that first free 30 days. Do you think that that's how you
Well,
would play these titles, or would it be worth the $60 for you?
yeah, it would be. I mean, when I look at a brand new MMO launching, I mean, Final Fantasy 14 just happened last weekend, and
Which
some old
looks
rumor.
like, okay, is that beta or is that like the actual release? Because that, from what I've seen on Twitter, is like
Mhm.
way worse than SimCity in terms of server access. Like
Well,
every time I see
yeah,
somebody tweet about it, it's like, oh, still can't get into Final Fantasy.
it's having the same issues that Guild Wars 2 had,
Mm.
but 10 times worse in the sense that it hasn't gone away yet. I
So this is
believe
the actual release of the game. This isn't
it's the
this
second
isn't a
release.
test.
Well, see, the game came out 2 years ago, I believe, and then they took it down because it wasn't up to people's standards, and then they re-released it under A Realm Reborn, and it's technically a new game. The story even takes place 5 years after the crappy Final Fantasy 14. And I know last weekend, the great thing about new launches of MMOs is that you're guaranteed to have friends to play with. I mean, two of my old roommates went up to somebody's house and just landed and just played Final Fantasy 14 for like 3 days straight on a long weekend, and they're having a blast. And I know some of those people have they're not fans of MMOs, or they've played MMOs so much that they try to stay away from MMOs, and it's that initial 30 days that really is the best time with an MMO, because I know when WildStar launches, I'm going to have Jocelyn to play it with, and Joel to play with, and Todd to play with, and Ashley's just going to be upset.
I didn't want to jump on that freaking Animal Crossing train, because I knew that if I got a 3DS, then no one would still be playing it when I did, and that would have been, like about 30 to 60 days after launch is when I thought I was going to have the budget to be able to do it. So,
people are still playing Animal Crossing.
When I was at PAX, just looking at people that I saw on my 3DS, you can see what they last played. When you see their pass, and probably a third of the people were playing Animal Crossing.
Oh, really?
Which, and then there's you got your Pokemons and your other stuff that's on there. Lots of other games in there, but by far the majority was Animal Crossing New Leaf. So, which I was kind of surprised actually. But
okay, so
it's got some...
One last quick question about WildStar that comes out of the chat room, which I should mention, we do have a live chat room because we record live every Friday night at 8:30 p.m. Eastern on AMove TV, and you can find that at twitch.tv/AMoveTV. So this question comes from the chat room. Did you get enough time playing WildStar to find out if it's too similar to WoW, or is it different enough that it's going to be something cool and fun and, well, different?
I mean, just from playing, I think so. I played probably over an hour total amongst the different classes, and art style is, I think, very similar to WoW. There's very bold colors. You have some of the environments kind of reminded me of WoW. It's not a photorealistic game. It's more of a cartoon style game. If obviously anyone that's seen the previews, and that holds true throughout, like the different environments that you go into. Same thing in the housing demo. It's very very cartoon style, very whimsical in a lot of ways. Combat in MMOs is always going to have a lot of similarities. So,
which is funny because it seemed to me, looking at the dev videos that they've been putting out and the trailers and stuff like that, it looks different. I mean,
it is, but like the biggest thing there is that it's more action oriented. You have to be a lot more mobile.
Yes,
and you're not going to kill things in 5 or 6 hits typically, or 3 hits or 2 hits. Like you would in WoW at your level with some decent gear. You can just stand in one spot and not hit them 3 or 4 times with two or three buttons.
That all
good.
The time.
And that's just the way it is. This one, that you actually have to. One of the systems they talked about quite a bit, and you actually see in the demos, it's called their telegraphing system, and it actually shows you basically the area that an attack will hit. It draws an outline on the screen, and you can turn that off.
I was gonna say, is that something that you can turn off? Because I know, although I do appreciate, I found that there's been a lot of enemies that I've run up against in WoW since I've hit level 90, and especially in the last couple of days, some of the level 90 stuff in the Barrens that, they're earth shakers or whatever, and then there's like dust on the ground in like an S shape, and then, spikes come up where the dust was because he's shaking the earth sort of thing, and that's one of the attacks. And so it's telegraphed in that I know that there's going to be spikes where the dust is and I need to move, but it would be completely different and would take me out of the game if that was like a red S on the ground or something, which is what WildStar looks like to me, where it's like a red triangle on the ground saying like, this is the danger zone, you should move. And I'm just like, well, I don't really want that. I would like it to be a little more subtle.
It's definitely optional, and they made a point of that because people had asked that. It's like, can we turn this? I mean, this looks cool, especially for raiding and stuff. When there's a big cleave, you actually see an outline of exactly where the cleave goes to. and you can like double jump, or like you press a button twice in one direction real quickly and you'll
Mm-hmm.
do like a roll or something in that direction. So you can actually say, well, you see an outline of it, and it includes for yourself as well, so you can actually see before you're going to attack exactly the range of where your weapon is
Right.
going to shoot, if it's a pistol or something like that, or
Right, because it's
um,
not auto targeting. Like in WoW, you can just click on something and then, everything I shoot is going to hit that guy. Except
yeah,
for, like, based on obviously, my expertise and their dodge values, and there's all this big equation in the background, but I don't actually have to aim a crosshair or anything like that. But WildStar is different, right? Like, there's no
yeah.
guarantee that you're going to, like, it doesn't come down to the numbers, it comes down to your skill at aiming, right?
Yeah, and it definitely does. You can't just stand there. I mean, you could obviously, if you're high enough level, you could, but I found that like no matter what I was attacking, even stuff at level 1, I had to jump around a lot, and I had to roll out of the way and like get better positioning. And if I had 2 or 3 things on me, I had to pay attention to multiple arcs of attack coming at me from different ways, and you, got really close to dying quite a few times just because I'm like, oh crap, I got to dodge this one also.
Mm-hmm.
So that was, and the combat was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that quite a bit. I mean, it's cool seeing all the housing, and their housing stuff was off the hook. It was unbelievable. To me, like some of it, like you can put your own little tower defense game on your property,
Nice.
and have your own challenges. Like they showed them placing a tornado, and you jump into the tornado and you fall through these crystals on the way down. Your goal is to like collect so many crystals in a certain amount of time,
Huh.
and these are optional things that you can actually find stuff like this out in the world, and or materials that you have to craft or take to someone like, hey, can you please craft me this challenge? You can put your own little
Cool.
mini dungeon on your property. So you get like an outside area, then you get an inside area, and you can decide what the sky looks like on the outside, plus all the interior wood and like the
That's
lighting,
intense.
what the sconces look
Jeez.
like for your lighting. That changes. Like if you want to have the outside look like green fog, or you're floating in an island out in space, you can do that. You basically pay, you through one means or another, through either what you find in the world, or what you've crafted, or what you've bought off the auction house, or whatever. Or for quest rewards, you get certain items and you basically unlock them. And as long as you've already purchased them, you can remove stuff, add them later with I think with no cost. So
Mm-hmm.
they just, you could see like certain categories they didn't have a lot in, or they had placeholders, but they went through like a lot of the lighting, a lot of the textures, and it was like you could totally make it look like a dwarven inn, or like a steampunk dungeon if you wanted to
Cool.
inside this house that you've got. And that was really pretty cool. And they showed like any items that you place in there, like a table you can scale and rotate any way you want. So you can make a little tiny table for like as a footrest if you wanted, instead of having it as a big table. And
Mm-hmm.
same thing for things outside. You basically have so many slots that you can place items in. I believe you can expand that later on.
Oh, I'm sure you probably
I'm
can.
sure there's a cost, or there's
Mm-hmm.
some requirement or level or something before you can get the hugest property out there.
Right.
They didn't go into a ton of details about the specifics, but a lot of them was just showing. They were showing a guy playing live, and just changing things around and putting in, like he put a giant Ferris wheel up and tore down the tornado, and threw in a little dungeon, and then had some target dummies and things like that. But yeah, it was very cool. It made me really stoked to actually play it when it comes out, and
Mm-hmm.
I'll definitely be following the news a lot more, and talking to some of those guys, like kind of when they're just. They threw this big party where they bought everybody drinks and had free food at the Hard Rock Cafe, and like 500 people or so, or 400
Wow.
people. And it was just, they were very open. They gave away a ton of probably 40 or 50 keyboards and headsets from Logitech. I mean, they had a lot
Beta
of
keys?
sponsors.
Did you get any beta keys?
Uh, they had a sign up for the beta keys, and they had a
Mm.
little thing where you could spin a wheel kind of thing and possibly get access. And they're like, you were already signed up. I'm like, yeah, I know. But I did not score anything. They had
Uh,
lots of swag though, T-shirts
mm.
and posters and things like that.
Cool.
So
So what else
yeah,
did
they
you
were
get?
very
Oh,
cool.
sorry. What
Go
else
ahead.
did you get your hands on at PAX?
Oh, okay. So probably the game most people were talking about, or most excited about, and possibly had the longest lines, was Titanfall.
Oh
And
yeah.
I'm
Which
sure you've
Ryan
heard
is
somewhat
extremely.
about that. Yeah,
Ryan's
and
very
that's
excited.
I am excited.
yeah, and believe me, it was totally worth the wait to play that. And that is completely multiplayer. There is no single player mode in that game.
Not at
Um,
all.
no,
Oh.
it's only
Interesting.
multiplayer.
Hmm.
So, and it's based, for those who don't know, that's an FPS. A lot of people say, well, it's kind of like Call of Duty. Well, in some ways it is, but the biggest thing in there is you've got these giant mechs um, that you can climb into. You can ride on your buddy's mech. If you land on an enemy's mech, you could bust into it and pull a guy out of it. If you're in a mech, you could. And you certain I can't remember exact. I'm trying to remember. I kept getting killed a lot because I was trying to get good positioning because they're like, go high, get as high as you can, and you have like little rocket packs so you can like parkour up the walls. I'm like trying to wall run and like just like running into the wall sideways and nothing's happening and getting shot. And at one point, a mech came over to me, and a
Sounds
guy
like my
grabbed me
Call
with
of
a
Duty.
giant claw and like threw me like 200 yards away and killed me.
Oh
Like
man,
instantly. But I
that
mean,
sounds so
there's
cool.
it is just a wild game. It's a lot of fun. Um, I mean, you can basically shoot the mechs down out of the sky if you got a rocket launcher while they're basically being deployed by these drop ships. So if you know what you're doing, you could like summon a mech, and before you can get into it, it gets blown up if you're not careful. So
Right.
I mean, that was definitely that was a huge line, probably 2.5 hours for that, and
Jeez.
but it was a complete multiplayer demo, so you're just doing a multiplayer with everybody else, and
Hmm.
I'm not sure exactly what type of like experience system or leveling system or unlocks they're going to have. The demo was a little bit limited, but it's going to be yeah, that I think is going to be the one that's out of all. I mean, for MMOs, WildStar was I'm most excited about from what I saw there. Titanfall as a game as a whole is definitely the one that I'm
Hmm.
stoked for when that comes out. So
Right. Now with Titanfall, I remember reading or hearing that there was no single player, like you said, but there was story within the multiplayer. Did you
yeah,
get a sense of that when you were
yeah,
playing?
it's very I mean, I didn't get as strong of a sense as I would have liked, which is just going to take a lot more gameplay. But you're basically getting an introduction to the game, and you want to know why am I fighting anybody is kind of the question you have to ask when you're in that. I mean, you know. Gamers expect a story, and no matter what kind of game they're playing anymore, and
Hmm.
they should. There's the story is often light in a lot of games, so I'm not sure how strong the story is going to be. I definitely got a lot more sense for the action than I did for the lore and the story behind why you're doing the things. I mean, it's explained, but I think just the adrenaline of like I just want to shoot some dudes was kind of overtaking me. So
Yeah, it comes off as a little odd that they wouldn't put it. I mean, developers are developers and they can do whatever they think is right for the vision, but I find it odd that the guys who originally created the Call of Duty series, which was known for its historic accuracy and story and single player gameplay, and then have gone and created this multiplayer only. I mean, I know they're a new company and everything. It'd be interesting to see if, well, when this does really well on Xbox One and PC, whether they'll create a second one and have sort of a single player section. I mean, Giant Robots seems like the perfect um, opportunity to have a single player campaign with lots of
yeah,
explosions and epic moments, right? So, but then again, maybe they've already said that putting those condensed moments that you get in the single player of Call of Duty games into the multiplayer might make multiplayer more interesting than just to run around a corner and get shot fest.
yeah, I don't think people are going to be disappointed with that
Okay.
because I mean, just like surveying people after, like even before I got a chance, I didn't go till Sunday. I think I got there on Friday, stayed through Monday night, left Tuesday, so I had the full 4 days. I was there early and talking to people both like before I got to play it and afterwards. Just say, what do you think? Is this one you're gonna pick? Would you pick this up? I mean, you waited in line for it. You must care about this kind of game, and
Right.
I didn't find anybody that was like, eh. I mean, everyone was kind of like me, like I'm stoked to play this. This is just there's elements of this. I mean, just having like just for the action alone. And I know the story. It seems like it's going to be, I think it'll be pretty good. I mean, we'll see. Um, I really hope that it's strong and what you're figuring you've got more of a sense of why you're there and you believe in yeah, I believe him. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. So
Hmm.
Right.
I think that's going to be there. But again, it's hard to say with a limited demo there. But
Right.
definitely I mean, I was at first when I heard about this being there, I'm like, well, I know lots biggest hype there. We'll see. And I was like kind of like, yeah, I'll go play it, but I'm not. I'm gonna just hold. I'm not gonna be just like everyone else saying, oh, this is gonna be awesome. When I saw it, I was like, oh, this is awesome. So
Well,
yeah,
that's
it
good.
kind of won me over in just a short amount of time. And I'm trying to, like, you can do these little rocket jumps with, you got a little rocket pack on your back, and you're just flying up onto the second and third floor of
Hmm.
buildings, and
Mm-hmm.
just flying out through the sky, and just all kinds of crazy stuff that's just over the top for compared to a lot of FPS games. So
Were you playing on PC or with an Xbox One controller?
Xbox One. So
Ooh, how'd that
Yeah, how
feel?
was that?
felt good.
We're like,
I
wait,
got to play.
what?
Yeah,
How did that feel,
it felt
Todd?
good.
How
Yeah,
did
it
it
felt.
feel?
I mean, it felt. I mean, I've always liked the Xbox, the regular Xbox controller, and
Yes, it's
I've
so
got a. I
nice in your hands. PlayStation,
yeah,
I
it's got
always think I'm gonna break it.
yeah, it's got a good heft to it. I thought I mean, it felt comfortable. I didn't have to really think about it that much. I mean, I also got to play the PS4, and with
Mhm.
their new controller, and it feels better than the PS3 or the six-axis or the DualShock 3 controller. I think I've got both those on mine, and I still prefer the Xbox. Out of all the game systems, I like the Xbox controller the best. I mean, at first I liked the PS3 controllers because they were lighter, but after a while, it's just kind of you kind of want a little bit more weight to them.
Mm-hmm.
And
Well,
for
good.
me, that just feels right. Yeah, it felt good. Yeah, it wasn't something I had to adjust to. It just felt like you could just jump in and get the hang of it without too much effort. So
Todd's the only one mature enough to continue
To
on with
continue
yeah,
through
yeah, I'm in
that.
my own little world. Don't mind me.
his.
Uh,
Well, I'm
this
glad to hear
the
that the
girth
Xbox.
feels
It had
really
hurt,
good in my
yes.
hands.
I was
I
trying.
heard ya. I heard ya.
Oh,
No,
jeez.
but you do. I have heard that the PS4 controller is a lot better than the PS3 because basically they continue the design from one to two to three, and it really didn't change much. And I agree with you. I always hated the Sony controller. That's why I never owned a PS1 or PS2, and the PlayStation 3 was sort of just like I'm a hardcore gamer now. I suppose I should get a Blu-ray player. And those, they're not the greatest. They're not very, they're light, and you're right. They feel like they're gonna break in your
Hmm.
hands. But I never had any doubts that the Xbox One controller would feel like a dream. I was just, I'm just really hoping that the PS4 controller is an improvement, considering they've, you know, Sony Japan has finally allowed them to, break the mold and start with something new and fresh, right? So the PS4 controller felt good then compared to the PS3.
Yeah, and I played that on. I mean, I think I when I first tried it, I was doing something like it wasn't even a new release. It was like DC Universe Online. I'm like, just because there was no weight, I'm like, oh, there's the controller. There's no weight. At least I
Right.
can pick it up. And then later on, I went and played the Diablo 3 on the PS3, and there
Hmm.
was about a 20-minute demo of that, and that was cool. That definitely gave me a lot better feel because I'm like, what the hell's going on in this DC game? And I'm underground. I don't know where the hell I am. I mean, it's not even on demo.
Batman.
It's not even a demo. It's just a game. It's a live game, and you're just like, you know, I don't know where someone took me. I'm just trying to move around. I don't know what the hell these. Okay, if I held the trigger and do this, this does a certain attack. Okay, generally try combinations of buttons until something works. And for the playing it on with Diablo 3, I'm like, okay, point, move, aim, okay, inventory, and I'd played. Believe me, I have not picked up Diablo 3 yet for any system other than the PC when I first got it.
Hmm.
Okay, so
Yeah,
last year.
Ryan, do you own Diablo 3?
I do on PC, yeah.
Right, yeah.
Okay, yeah, so I haven't picked it up for a console simply because I've already leveled 5 different characters to level 60 and have a
Oh
bunch
my
of Paragon
God.
levels on them, and I did that in the first couple months. So
I barely got one character
I
through the
think I have
story.
one character at level like 25, and that's it.
a lot of people were like, "Oh my, it repeats the whole thing all over again." I'm like, yes, it does, and you're running the same levels over. I mean, I enjoy that just as something mindless to kind of, you know,
I guess I can kind of see that.
it's just I don't have to think too hard, and it can be enjoyable, and they're revamping the inventory system or revamping the drop system because you mostly get garbage, and like we'll
Hmm.
make less garbage for you, and you can see some of that in the console release. There's no auction house or real money auction house. There's they're very limited on what you could get into. You just pick the class and here you go,
Hmm.
and you were at a certain like level 25 or 40 or something already, so you had a certain set of abilities, and that was cool. I mean, Diablo 3 has been talked to death, so I won't go into ton more detail about that. But the controller, you know, the PS3 control or PS4 controller felt good for that. You know, like I said, compared to the PS3 controller, a lot better. Just felt a lot nicer. The Xbox One controller, I mean, they basically kept the exact same form factor. It's, you know, the buttons are in the same exact spot. I like having the sticks offset.
Mm-hmm.
So you have your left stick a little higher than your right stick, and some other systems are kind of got them on this like right next to each other with the, and that's kind of so for me. I feel it feels more comfortable having one thumb up a little higher there. So,
Mm-hmm.
you know, so yeah, I definitely like the Xbox One controller better. It felt better. And
Cool.
yeah, and it was good. I mean, they both felt pretty good. So
Mm-hmm.
I pre-ordered both of those, and I'm gonna be broke in November, so we'll see.
Did
We'll see
you
if anybody gets Christmas presents.
did you find that there was a noticeable difference being a PC gamer when you were actually looking at the games in like Titanfall in the Xbox One? Like, is it that much noticeably better than PC? Is it much better than Xbox 360? Like where? Because I mean, Ryan and I haven't actually seen games played on these systems, right? So, like graphics quality wise, are you looking at it and going, "Wow, it's pretty, it's responsive, it's everything that they promised"?
Yeah, and that's and even now, see, at a convention like this, it's almost it can be really hard to compare your PC versus your console experience in the sense that every single PC system is a high-end gaming system there. I mean, it's
Right.
top of the line, usually 90% Alienware, um, or I'm sorry, I can't say that word. Whatever that other company that sponsored the show, but it's or you know they're basically. I'm sure somebody's got Doghouse Systems, great product, you know,
And
but
that's our
they're
Doghouse Systems plug for the day.
yes, so
Don't
but
buy
basically,
Alienware.
yeah, they're garbage.
Who
It's not
likes
worth it.
aliens? Don't invite
Go
aliens into your
independent.
home.
Go Doghouse Systems. What's the code, Joss?
The gamer's in.
See, I know how to throw a plug in. So,
Yeah.
but basically, you're going to get the highest end system you can find, and it's like wow, there is a lot of hardware in a little tiny
Mm-hmm.
amount of space. I mean, these are $5,000 computers and running every single thing on a you know on a 30-inch screen or you
Right.
know 24-inch screen. I mean, hardly anything smaller than that.
Mm-hmm.
And likewise, I mean, I did notice the graphics look spectacular on any of the higher end, you know, the newer next gen systems. They
Mm-hmm.
were really sure. I mean, that's the first thing I look for, and that's a lot of times I'll like, you know, if I'm not caught by the graphics and how clean everything looks, then you know, that's a selling point for me. I want it to
Mm-hmm.
look good. I play everything on a big TV. I hook my PC up to my TV and play there too. So I'm going to notice you know, oh, well, there's the anti-aliasing's kind of crappy here. Or
Mm.
their models are very pixelated, and
Yeah.
you know, so
Anti-aliasing bugs me too. We can talk about Skyward
yeah,
Sword if we want.
No,
sure.
no one wants to talk about that. Speaking of Zelda, though, did you get a chance to try any of the Nintendo Wii U titles?
Yes, I did. Okay, so
How
Wind
does that
Waker,
controller feel in your hand?
that is a beast. I was going to pick on Ryan for even liking it, but actually, I had never held one before. I mean, not even at like the GameStop or
Yeah.
something like that. I'm just like, eh. In fact, Ryan's the only guy I know that has a Wii U. So,
I'm the only guy that I know that has a Wii U. No.
yeah. And they had, I mean, they had a lot of Wii U games on display. They had, yeah, so, yeah, the Wind Waker HD. I never played the original, so I haven't. There's a lot of Nintendo titles that I haven't played. I played original Zelda and a lot
Mm-hmm.
of like the first several generations after it. But once things got on the GameCube, and never had a GameCube, and I never really, you know, I played some things on the DS. So but that was really nice. It was like playing an animated movie. Like you were actually like controlling the movie. I mean, it just looked very smooth. It looked cartoony, but the way they shaded it, you didn't really feel like, oh, these are 3D models. It almost felt like you were like inside the movie in a sense, just
Mm.
playing it. And it looked really good. And that was actually a lot of fun to play. I was kind of being not the hardcore, you know, Zelda addict that I used to be. It was quite a very good experience to actually, you know,
Yeah.
to pick that up. So yeah,
I
I like
think
that.
with Wind Waker, it's interesting because they looked at a bunch of titles, even looking at Jocelyn, you really like Twilight Princess, right?
I did, yeah.
Yeah, they looked at Twilight Princess, Wind Waker, and actually Skyward Sword and said, okay, which one of these do we want to give an HD facelift? And they took Wind Waker and they brought it into a Wii U engine and kind of, played around with textures and got the lighting system in there, and then realized how sort of timeless that art style is, and then by bumping it up to HD and giving it a whole new lighting system, it kind of just, like you said, it makes it look like you're playing a cartoon. And one of the coolest things that I saw when I was playing it 10 years ago is that it felt like I wasn't playing anything else that I'd played before, because the art style was so unique. And it was still a Zelda game, but with the sailing and stuff, it was just different. And
it was different, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm looking. I think it's been long enough. I mean, if they had released Twilight Princess, I mean, that still probably would have been long enough to play through it again. But Skyward Sword would have been a different issue. Because I mean, that's a long game.
That would be like admitting that they were wrong to release it on the Wii in the first place.
Yeah, and I mean, I think they were probably wrong.
I agree completely, but
they should have done what they did with Twilight Princess and just bridge the gap.
Yeah.
How they delay it another year. You already delayed it too. So
yeah, one more and throw it on both. Absolutely.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm looking forward to Wind Waker, and I actually looked into it. I guess the cool plastic Ganondorf figurine is only available in the States. Thank you, Nintendo Canada. You've finally done. No. I'm glad that it's not coming out, because now I have nothing holding me back from picking it up on the 20th. And
I see.
Playing it early, so I'm actually happy, because I would have wanted that, but I wouldn't have wanted to wait. I probably would have waited, but I would have complained about it for 2 weeks. So
Yep.
you're welcome, listeners.
I kind of wish that they had actually ported over Majora's Mask, because I loved that game.
I did too.
Time travel and all the different masks and all the different people that you have to meet and try to figure out, and you can help them, but only after you've done other things. And man, that game was like the biggest puzzle ever. Loved it.
They've talked about bringing it, like, they were pretty adamant that they were going to do it after this Link to the Past 2, because they basically said, okay, what would you rather see? Link to the Past 2 or Majora's Mask remake?
Yeah.
And they felt like, well, it's probably too soon to do a remake. We just released Ocarina of Time. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Majora's Mask
on the 3DS?
On the 3DS, yeah.
Well, then I guess I have to go get a 3DS, because that game I would play over and over. I have played it over and over again, but that would be something that I would love to have to carry with me. Oh, love that game. Anyways, off on a little bit of a tangent there. I think we're going to have to move this along because we're running out of time, but I think just very, very quickly, I wanted to mention for what I've been playing this week is that I've been playing some Hearthstone, and I've been playing some of the patch 5.3 content in WoW, and all of that is available on our YouTube channel. I streamed everything live yesterday and today. I'm probably going to be streaming some more content tomorrow. And I'm doing all of that because when 5.4 launches on Tuesday, a lot of that content is going to be gone. So I wanted to give you guys a chance to see it if you haven't already, and if you don't have time to play this weekend, and on and on and on. So if you want to see all of the 5.3 content in the Darkspear Troll Rebellion, then you can check out our YouTube channel, which is just youtube.com/Jocelyn Moffat. Ryan, what have you been playing? Do you want to talk about what you've been playing, or shall we just move along?
You'll
be back next week, so.
I will be. I was just going to say I need to watch that because my subscription for WoW lapses on the 9th. And I'm thinking to myself, like, actually I just realized that sucks for multiple reasons, because the new patch is out the day after.
The day after, yeah.
Blizzard's probably like, he probably doesn't remember when he subbed. Let's just move it back a day so he subs again. This little sucker here, we get him another $15. I think what I'm going to do with WoW, I did cancel my subscription, but I'm going to give it one more shot this weekend. It's your last chance, WoW. You better WoW it.
Good time, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. We talked a bit about it in the show, and I've been playing a lot of Saints Row, and as we talked about last week, the Bureau. Just really enjoying
other content.
And the fact that it ends. Because I always feel like with WoW, it's like, man, I can go and play for 2 hours, but there's still going to be many out. I know a lot of people love like the limitless entertainment that it offers, but for me, it's
Yeah,
like,
I find it kind of daunting because, like you
mm,
say, you can play for hours and feel almost like you're not getting anywhere. And I'm almost afraid to get to the end because when you get to the end, like say I get all geared up and ready for the Siege of Orgrimmar, and then I go in there, and then it's just grind, 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 and it's do the same thing over and over and over again until you get the best possible gear, and then I get the best possible gear so that I can grind some more in the next expansion. Like, so.
yeah.
I mean, I am enjoying WoW, and actually the 5.3 story is very straightforward. It is one quest line. It's really really cool. I got to, and you guys can see this if you go watch the video. But I actually got to kill a world boss, one of those commanders in the Barrens. I grouped up with a whole bunch of random people, and we took him down. And it was like I died like 5 times, and I had to keep running back and like, like getting my body and stuff. And oh my god, my pet died like 18 times. It's crazy, but it was a lot of fun because I'd never done anything like that before. That was the biggest group of people I've ever played WoW with, so it was cool.
I feel
It
like
was like 7 people still.
yeah, and I feel like I've done that. Like I've done it before with WoW. I think that's the difference between our two experiences is that what you're experiencing now, I've experienced before in that game, and I had a blast. And I'm not saying WoW isn't fun, and I'm
Well, it's
kind of
true. And
jealous of.
I've never had to do it, so it's
Yeah,
possible I'm going to get there, I'm going to start it, and actually going in and learning fights and doing something over and over and over again until I perfect it might actually be fun. So we'll have to see.
yeah.
It's
Well, yeah,
a little more chaotic in a random group like that out in the world. I
Hmm.
mean, but it's still a good time.
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, and I mean the playing with other people is also something that really helps with WoW. I mean, playing as a group is a lot of fun, but yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Expansions always seem to bring me back, so we'll
Hmm.
see what sort of expansion they come out with. But
Well, and this
um,
patch is huge.
yeah, 5.4 is
5.4.
probably going to last us a good 6 months before people start
Yeah.
complaining. But
It's
then again, I'm not a raider, so I really don't
Yeah,
know if
but
I have to be honest.
it's 3 wings with 14 bosses, whole bunch of new pets and mounts and gear and all that kind of stuff. So it's
Mhm.
huge, and it's going to knock out a lot of the stuff from 5.3. So again, if you want to check it out, go to the YouTube
Nice.
channel and check out the Gamers in TV playlist.
Yeah.
So I think that brings us to our actual official Doghouse Systems plug. And so Ryan and I really appreciate your continued support of our show, along with the support of our fabulous sponsor, Doghouse Systems. Use the code TheGamersIn, all one word, to double your RAM when you purchase a new gaming rig. Head on over to doghousesystems.com and get your order on. That would normally bring us to Quickfire News, but we're not doing Quickfire News tonight. We are doing all packs all the time. So there was a few big announcements, or not really announcements, but stories that came out of PAX this week. So
Mhm.
there was a lot of announcements out of Microsoft, which included something that Ryan is apparently very excited about because he moved it up to the top of the notes instead of putting it in with the news. Ryan?
It wasn't Quickfire, and then you deleted Quickfire, so I saved it.
Dragged it out of the dark black hole pit that was Quickfire News.
I'm the guy who goes back into the burning building to grab the newspaper.
What?
Oh, when you think about it, that's the closest thing to. And then.
So
It
what's
was
the
like
news, Ryan? Jeez.
The news is that Xbox One is releasing on the 22nd of November, which is a week after PS4, and which I'm glad because I don't
Mhm.
want to be trying to pick up a PS4 when everybody's there trying to pick up their Xbox One. But
So you're just getting the PS4 then?
yes,
Because
I'm
I was
just
going to
getting
say,
the PS4.
my problem would be if I had the money, is juggling between the two. If they both came out on the same day, I'd probably get home with the 2 boxes and go, and just
I
have like
couldn't
an
handle
emotional
that.
breakdown.
I couldn't handle that. Though I will be avoiding stores on the 22nd.
Yeah.
That's actually the day that around there I think there's that new Mario game coming out. So I think I'll be pre-ordering that and getting it shipped to me. I don't really want to go near any stores when there's a console launch, but it's coming out in 8 territories. Or is it 8? 13. Sorry.
13.
And yeah, I mean, it's coming out on the 22nd, which is crazy, and it's coming out
And we
worldwide.
totally called it. We called it last week.
We did we?
We did.
Did you check that you went back to
No,
the
but I
tapes?
totally remember, because I remember thinking it would be exactly a week after the PlayStation. And I am
Right.
99% sure that either I said that or you said that, but somebody said that. I'm sure.
It sounds right. I mean, it's actually 8 years to the day since the 360 launch. So that's
Really?
kind of interesting. Yeah, I thought that was interesting. I didn't make that connection, but it's neat.
Oh,
And
I was gonna
Microsoft's
say,
like,
I was like, dude,
it's like, oh,
you're paying
Rain Man
too
over
much
here.
attention.
Well, it's just that, and then this was a news story, and
Mm.
Microsoft's like, oh, well, we launch a lot of things in November. It's not at all connected. It's like, come on, guys.
Yeah, just say it is, because we all know it is.
Yeah, 8 years. That's a big 8 years. Can you think about that?
Yeah.
8 years for the Xbox 360. That's crazy.
So we got some other news out of
Hmm.
Microsoft at the PAX event, and it was actually funny because it seemed to kind of center around the 360, which is odd because they're launching their new console in a couple months, and yet the news had to do with the 360. Although one of them was actually bridging the 360 to the Xbox One, and they have basically what Microsoft has said is that there are a certain number of titles, I believe it's 6 or 8 titles, which include things like Call of Duty Ghosts and what else comes out. Let me see. There's a whole list in this article here. Let me just double check. Battlefield 4, Madden, Need for Speed, all of the kind of really big next gen, next gen games that are coming out kind
Right.
of this fall. If you buy them for the 360 and then end up wanting the Xbox One, you pick up a console after launch or whatever, you can trade in your 360 copy and get an Xbox One copy for $10, which is pretty good, I think.
But is there a time limit? Because I don't think anyone's gonna buy Battlefield 4 on October 25th and then go a month later and pick it up on Xbox One.
Well, that's an excellent question. I didn't see anything about any
Well,
kind of time crunch or anything else. I think they would be smart to just honor it on the titles that are kind of straddling the release of the Xbox One. It would be really smart of them to just honor that period forever. You know, whenever you happen to pick up an Xbox One, you can upgrade these games to Xbox One versions for $10 a pop. That would be so smart of them.
yeah, and this is only at Microsoft stores, so it's like I don't even think the closest one is Toronto for me, but I don't think they're as widely
No,
available.
no, no, no. It's widely available. You can buy them from the Microsoft Store, at a retail store, or
Oh,
online. Yeah, so no, anywhere.
okay. Well, it says
Or
from
probably not
Microsoft
download.
Store, retail or online, so you
Oh,
have to
oh,
buy.
okay. Sorry, I read that wrong. Yeah, so
I
you're right.
think I think EB might be doing something. I've heard stories of them maybe doing something, but definitely not as generous as $10.
Mm-hmm.
But I think this makes sense because I mean, if you are into Battlefield, you are going to pick it up day one,
Yeah.
and
Well, you
then
don't want to be 3 weeks behind or 4 weeks behind,
yeah,
whatever.
and for $10, it's not that's chump change when you're thinking skip coffee for a week
Yeah.
and you're set. But that's good stuff.
So, Todd, you're going to be picking up the Xbox One on launch day. So, do you have any, like, are you the really big into Battlefield person who might take advantage of this trade-in deal, or are you just going to wait for stuff to come out on the Xbox One and grab it there?
I am, in spite of pre-ordering everything under the sun, I am a patient person, so I can hold out.
Sure.
I think so. Yeah, I mean, I've gone through that where I just had everything right away, had to have it, and then I mean, I remember I don't know how many games I bought at launch day last year, and I have a couple of them still in the wrapper, so it's kind of like, yeah,
Nice.
I'll wait, and
I think
there's
that's
a couple
even
of
worse
things that,
than Ryan.
Well,
yeah, but
it's only when it comes to Steam games, like
No,
PC
Steam
stuff.
games don't count.
that's another. I bought too much
Well,
of
that's
those
I
last year.
always open I never leave a packaged game in the shrink wrap.
Mm.
It's usually only like Steam games, but I do have a problem with like going out buying a game new, putting it in, playing it for 2 hours, and then never touching it again. Nino Kuni comes to mind on that one, but
Yeah,
Wasn't
a
that
lot,
the
lot of
game that everyone was going crazy for like a week and then
oh yeah.
nobody ever talked about it again?
yep. You're looking at that was one of my biggest mistakes this summer was that not mistake, but like you said, make it sound like you broke your arm or something. It's like it's just one of those games that I picked up, played, thought was interesting, and then just never was never drawn back to it. And you're right, a lot of people were going ape shit for it, and you couldn't find it in store, and then it's like it just disappeared.
it gone, like poof, like it never existed. It was really funny. Anyway,
The internet is awful. I'm
true.
telling you right now.
That's really, really true. So the other thing that come out of Microsoft was that they are going to be actively supporting the 360, which includes the launch of 100 new titles for the next 3 years, which is pretty huge. And I think we may have mentioned this back at the official launch event that they did for the Xbox One. But
Right.
I think they're almost shooting themselves in the foot, because if they're going to keep supporting my 360, I'm not going to run out and get a One. I'm going to run out and get a PlayStation, which I don't currently own. So, I don't know. Todd, what are your thoughts on Microsoft supporting the 360 for so long while they're trying
Well,
to push a next-gen console?
I actually think that's a good idea because you won't get as many of the casual gamers upgrading to a brand new system, especially when there's no backwards compatibility, and you need a long window for people to adopt the system. So, like when the original Xbox came out, it took a little bit of time, and people were like, "Really, Microsoft's going to do a console? That'll never work." And look what fast forward 10 years, and or more, and you can see that wow, that's like with Xbox Live, I did the beta of the original Xbox Live on the Xbox, and I just remember being on getting on voice chat the first time, and it was like in one of the games that came with the beta was one of the like MotoGP or some motorcycle game, and it was like very dull graphics, and I just remember a guy yelling the same thing over and over, and like Timmy, hey Tim. And that's all I heard for 20 minutes. I thought, this is ridiculous. I'm not saying it's any better now.
Well, I was
No.
going to say, yeah, now
The titles were definitely lacking, and it took time for the system to get adopted. It didn't,
Right.
It didn't have the history that
Right.
the PlayStation had, for example, or the Nintendo system. I mean, they were starting from scratch. There was no Microsoft console before that.
Right.
Well, now they've got a legacy, and there's a huge install base of 360s. So I think it seems like a long time, but I think it's going to take a while. I mean, yeah, people that are really into gaming are going to pick stuff up. They're going to make a decision, and most people are going to like, well, I got to pick a PS4 or an Xbox One. Which one am I going to pick? And I think that you need you need to have a long life cycle on consoles to begin with. And there's, like I said, there's a lot of development time that is that's still being done on 360 titles, and there will continue to be. And the same thing happened with I don't think they did a 3-year window, but with the original Xbox, the games gradually that were coming out kind of basically went down to a trickle where there was hardly any being released. The longer the 360 was out there, you could find I can't remember what the exact last game was, but it was kind of like, wow, that's like the end of a system there. That's the end. But it didn't happen right away when the 360 came out. It didn't happen a year later. And, it took some time, so I think that's what I expected.
Yeah.
Do you know have you heard anything about what Sony has said for the PS3 support on that same issue?
I don't think that I've seen anything from them, Ryan.
Yeah, I haven't either.
They probably won't brag about it because not brag, but they probably won't make a news item out of it because history has shown that they have supported previous generation hardware for many years after the new hardware launches.
Yeah, that's true.
PS2 was constantly getting new games. I think they just discontinued it, and when they say our consoles have a 10-year life cycle, that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be just that console on the market. It just means that that's the longest we're going to support it for. So the PS3 will probably be supported for years to come, but I don't think it will be sort of advertised as much as you'll see the PS4 or Xbox One. Microsoft sort of focusing on the 360. I mean, you said that the games went out to a trickle, but they basically they cut the cord on Xbox and said 360. This is the one we want you to focus on. And I agree with Todd in the sense that I think it's good for the casual market, and so I can still have games for my system and whatnot. But I also agree with Jocelyn in the sense that the only Xbox game I'm looking forward to for this fall is Fable Anniversary, and there's no reason they couldn't have just pulled a Halo 2 on Vista and just said, hey, we're gonna bump the textures up a smidge and it's exclusive to Xbox One. It might have been a little bit harder for me to decide which one I wanted to buy this fall if Fable Anniversary was an Xbox One exclusive launch title. But it's coming out on 360, so I'm like, okay, well,
Yeah.
I'm still going to be able to play it and enjoy it. So I see both sides of it, but I still think it's smart
Of course
because
you do.
Sony has just made tons of money keeping the PS2 alive, so
Yeah.
Microsoft would be stupid to ignore that tactic. It
Yep.
just makes too much sense.
I agree. And so one other piece of PAX news that I wanted to mention, and Todd, feel free if there's anything that you want to throw in that you heard or happened at PAX that we don't have in the notes, then that's totally cool. But one thing that I did just want to quickly mention, which I find kind of odd, but so what happened was Penny Arcade ran a comic in 2010. So this is now a 3-year-old comic. And I found the entire arc of the comic really, really funny, especially given my current experience in MMOs. It's always really, really funny, especially now that where I'm questing is the level 90 zone. There are lots and lots and lots of the things that you have to do, whether it's mobs to kill or people to rescue or whatever. And I always find it funny that you only have to get a certain amount and then you just leave. And you never really feel like you make an impact. Whereas after areas are nerfed, there's usually less or, whatever. It feels like you clear out an area and then you leave. So, I mean, I found the overarching comic really, really funny because the idea is there's this big hero guy and he goes into a cave and he has to free a bunch of slaves, but only 5. And then as he's leaving, one slave is talking to him on the way out and, asking to be saved. And he's like, no, I only need 5 and, you're number 6 or whatever, and then leaves. And so the comic's really funny. But what the big controversy is what the slave describing what his living conditions are like, I guess. And he says that he gets raped to sleep every night by dick wolves, which is a very, very, I didn't laugh at that. I was just kind of like, oh, okay, that's a little bit far. I see what you're trying to say, but, in the kind of, fantasy realm of comics or, MMOs or whatever, it's just so far out there, and it's supposed to just be, look at how terrible life is for the slaves in the cave, why can't you save them all? And apparently it was this huge controversy. I don't remember hearing about this at all. Did you guys hear about this? Was it on your radar at all? Because apparently, there was this whole big controversy. They made merchandise. It was just this whole big thing. And then, so back in 2010, was this on your radar at all?
I don't pay attention to Penny Arcade. I find their comics are hit and miss for me personally, but I enjoy their work with, the child play charity and stuff. But that's besides the point. But I think that the controversy is there because of the way they followed up. I mean, there's been a post that Gabe, I think, put up about, they stand by the original comic, but the follow-up stuff where they were, saying to people that, it's like, rape jokes are funny, we're not insensitive, you're just, you don't have a sense of humor kind of stuff. And then the follow-up comic is like, oh, we're sorry that we created rapists from reading our comic. It was just really badly handled.
Yeah, it was.
And it's just, it's the follow-up and the immaturity there, and, I mean, they're trying to wrap it up, but I think it's like...
So yeah, basically why this became an issue this year at this PAX is because he made a statement in a panel saying that, because basically they got pressured into taking down all the merchandise and kind of the whole controversy just died, and then this year they came out and said, we never should have done that, taking down the merchandise was a big mistake, it's one of the biggest mistakes we've made at Penny Arcade, blah, 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 blah. So the internet was in an uproar again over this. So what do you guys think about the whole bringing it back up again thing? And did it actually impact you while you were at PAX, Todd? Were you even aware that statement had been made and that, everyone was ticked off about it while it was happening? Or were you just in your happy little Todd bubble?
I'd heard briefly of the original controversy, and I just kind of, I'm like, more people getting irate about something, and I knew it was a little more sensitive of a subject, and
Mm-hmm.
I didn't follow into it pretty deeply. To like, oh yeah, I feel very strongly one way or another. I mean, I think comedy can stand on its own, and sometimes it's going to be maybe offensive to people, and it's, I, I'm all for people expressing what they want to express. If they've got a following for it, it may be wrong to do it, but I certainly believe they should do that. But I didn't hear anything about this, and
Mm.
just from talking to people, no one mentioned it. Probably the vast majority of people there aren't even. I would say they just know there's going to be games there, and they're
Mm-hmm.
friends, and they're not everyone's a diehard Penny Arcade webcomic fan. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I follow them only occasionally, and it's usually, like I said, I agree with Ryan. It's kind of hit or miss. I think the convention is great, and they do a great job
Right.
hosting it,
Mm-hmm.
and it's an amazing thing. I think it's been going on since 2004, but just that so many people pull together to make this thing happen, and it goes pretty smoothly. And all the people that volunteer, you'll see these guys and girls that have these shirts that say "Enforcer" on them, and they basically corral people, and like you can ask them questions, and they're helpful, and they, just stuff like that. And it's just a lot of people just giving of their time basically to keep things moving. So I didn't hear it, and I think I don't know. It's people will be talking about it down the road, but I think it's
Mm-hmm.
overhyped at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The chat room was just asking if there was any reason that he brought it back up on purpose, and I didn't actually see the panel that he was on, but I am pretty sure that someone either asked him like what the biggest mistake that they made was, and his point was something more along the lines of free speech, I think, and comedic license or whatever you want to call it.
Hmm.
And saying that by bowing to public pressure and changing their stance on stuff was a mistake. It was either that or somebody else specifically brought up the incident. I am kind of unclear as to the kind of situation in the panel because again, like I said, I haven't actually watched the panel.
Yeah, I mean, what happened was their business manager, Robert Koo or Chu, sorry about that, but Robert, he asked them, what's the biggest mistake he's made as their business manager?
Oh, okay.
And he said, well, probably when you made us pull the Dick Wolf
Right.
T-shirt, and I mean, in his follow-up post, he sort of sees that like the worst part about it is when he said that, the entire crowd cheered.
Hmm.
And because the Dick Wolf, I mean, this has been talked to death, but because the Dick Wolf thing is just surrounded by this, it's already been sort of attached to, the whole rape. Yeah, how do I put this? The rape controversy and how people that this is a thing that we need to make sure people know about. You can't be making fun of this. This is something that happens to people every
Mm-hmm.
day. You can't make fun of it like this way, in this way, and because it's attached to that, and everyone was cheering. It's sort of like he follows up in his post by saying, the biggest mistake he's made. The reason it was his biggest mistake is because everything attached to that after the original comic was the biggest mistake he ever made in what he's saying in his own words. But
Mm-hmm.
it's really. It seems like you should have stopped yourself years ago as
Yeah.
opposed to this coming up again. And hopefully this is the end of
Yes.
this whole Dick Wolf
Yeah, I hope.
controversy. Like, if it comes up again, then these guys have issues, and they
Yeah.
need more than a business manager. They need, a PR
Mm-hmm.
specialist or something.
Well, and what they've said kind of is that from now on they're just not going to comment on anything that could potentially be controversial. Like they're just basically no comment from now on, and people are whether that's a good thing or a bad thing is up to personal opinion. But yeah.
These guys have kids, so I mean,
Mm-hmm.
like, they should really think like. And he said this in his post, like, his kids make him a better person, and you need to live by those words and say, if my kid grows up and is old enough to read this comic, am I going to feel bad that he had to read this? Like,
Mm-hmm.
think, or he or she, I don't know
Yeah.
whether they have,
Yeah,
but
I'm not sure. But
that
yeah.
should be your check right there,
Mm-hmm.
like, it's not rocket science.
Yeah. So I think that pretty much does it for the show. I just want to, I think we probably each have a quick plug here. I am going to plug Slash Loot, and I am actually wearing a Slash Loot t-shirt right now. Yay, this is my fancy Starcross t-shirt. It finally came. So this is the Magnificent Toy t-shirt. It's adorable. You guys should all go check out slashloot.com, and while you're there picking up a fancy dancy Starcross t-shirt, you should also go and pick up a fancy Gamers In t-shirt, which are also on slashloot.com. Ryan, I think you have an article you want to plug?
Yes, Lou, the busy zombie lord, has written yet another fantastical article on the Gamers In blog. Penny pinching and barrel scraping is his column, and he's focusing on sepultura.
Sepulcher.
Sepulcher. Is that a thing? Is sepulcher a thing?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Sepulture, which sounds like some sort of upholstery or something, but it's a free game. He said it takes about a half hour to play, but it's really neat. And I'm actually going to check it out this weekend, and I'll talk about it next week. But, don't wait for that. Just go and check out the article, and then, take a half hour out of your busy coffee morning special and play this game.
So yeah, I haven't actually read the article yet, but sorry, did you say I was totally not typing into the chat room?
You expected me to go on forever, but
I
I've
did.
kind of been getting the feeling that we've been going long.
We've run really long this week, but that's good and lots of good conversation. So you said it was free. Is it browser-based, Steam? Where do I get it?
It is a Windows game. You basically just give the developer your name and email address, and they email you a link to download the exe.
Cool.
It's waiting in my download folder now. So it as far as I know, it's a fully featured game, and it's just free. And if you want to support the developer, there is a $2.99 option that gives you the soundtrack and
nice.
So there is and see, that's a perfectly good way of using free to play.
Mm-hmm.
It's not nickel and dimed. It's $2.99 for some extra special stuff if you're interested in the behind the scenes.
Very cool. So, Todd, is there anything you would like to plug? Where can people find you online, and what are you up to?
You can find me most often on Twitter, and it's at BuddhaPhi, BUDDHA, like Buddha, and Phi, PHI, which was, it comes from I'm hacker slanging something from a kung fu movie. So
Nice.
PHI, short for finger. So yeah.
Ooh.
Buddha finger.
Yes, it's some cheesy technique where a guy was like punching perfectly circular holes through rice paper with his Buddha finger technique. So I thought that was kind of
Fancy.
I wanted to do that, and it did not work so well. But I like the name, so.
That's awesome. So everyone should head on over to Twitter and follow Todd there. And I think that pretty much wraps up the show. You can visit us on the web at gamersinpodcast.com or email us at info@gamersinpodcast.com. You can also find us on AMove TV, along with other fabulous podcasts, including Starcast, Campaign Roundtable, Biggest Fan, and This Week in Blizz. You can follow us on Twitter. You can find me, Jocelyn, at GIS Gamer. Ryan is at R. Murphy, and don't forget to follow the show at The Gamers In. You can also find us on Facebook and Google+, and I'm really trying to remember that we have Facebook and Google+ pages and that I need to post there too. But Twitter, we are all over the Twitters. Before we go, I just want to give a quick shout out and thank you to Greg Moffat for creating our music. You can find him on Twitter at SoundsInfluence. We would also like to thank Joel Duggan, who does all of our graphic work, including our fantastic custom overlay for this episode, which you guys should totally go and check out on our YouTube channel. You can find Joel and everything he does at joelduggan.com. So thanks for staying at The Gamers In, and remember to tune in next week. Bye, guys!